Hi, my name is Dave Schwartz. I'm a doctor with Parkinson's disease. I'm an ICU doctor. I'll be 49 years old next month. I was diagnosed 8 years ago. I am on meds. It started on my left side. It stayed on my left side. I have no tremor whatsoever, thank God. Um, but I'm here to say something special, which is that there is hope. For people with PD, there's hope. For people who are caretakers of people with PD, there is hope. Now that my left side is affected, we know that my right brain, the part in the deep brain called the basal ganglia, the specific part called the substantia nigra, which makes and uses dopamine, is in charge of coordination, initiation of involuntary movement. Meaning what? Meaning that walking, talking, swallowing, dancing, singing, what have you, comes automatically from this basal ganglia. So when you walk around, when you do jumping jacks, you don't think about it, right? Someone's over there, you want to go see, you run over to them. You don't think about it. It comes from your basal ganglia. One of the points that I'm going to make is that you can think about it, and I'm going to talk about that a lot. So you can use the cortex of your brain, or the outer part of your brain, the part that you think with, that you're conscious with, and you can try to control movement that way. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Why am I saying there's hope? And I'm not talking about a cure in any way or form, but I'm saying that we can get better, all of us. So Parkinson's disease is a classic example, maybe the most classic example that I know of, and I see it all the time when I talk about it, of this medical vicious cycle. And in PD, it's physiologic. So a vicious cycle in medicine means, you know, someone gets into the hospital with a urinary infection. They're lying in bed, they're older, they get a bed sore, they get infected, they're weaker, they get a line infection, they're weaker, they're older, they're not getting nutrition, they spiral down, 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 and the ending is not good, right? That's a negative vicious cycle. I also think that you should give people the opportunity. So if there's something that's not terminal, then you can get better little by little, build on it, spiral in the right direction, a good vicious cycle. So I would say Parkinson's is probably the best example of an exaggerated vicious cycle, and it's exaggerated by stress, um, emotional stress, physical stress. So what do I mean by that? I mean, for me, I can be loosey-goosey, all fine, talking normally, speaking, breathing normally, walking normally, looking normal. And then 2 seconds later, I get yelled at. I get in trouble for whatever reason. I know I'm 50 years old, but I do get in trouble. Anyway, 2 seconds later, I can be a zombie, as Parkinsonian as can be. Um, then I take a couple of breaths, turn on the music, maybe stretch a little bit, maybe meditate a little bit, maybe do a little bit of yoga, and in a couple of minutes, I'm back to where I was before. So this is not PD, although PD starts it, but this is mostly stress. Oh, so the vicious cycle. So you get up in the morning, you feel a little crappy. You feel your left arm, your left leg is not working so great. You get anxious. Cataclysms. Left arm, left leg get worse. Anxious. Cataclysms. Worse. Now you're right. You start shaking. Scared, pain, anxiety. Worse, 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 worse. And again, you can see the other way around. But this is all an exaggeration. So this is why I think people can come off their medications, some of them. I'm not saying come off your medications in any way or form, but what I'm saying is that I do think that for me and for many other people, classically, John Pepper, who just wrote the book Reversing Parkinson's Disease, or at least I just read the book Reversing Parkinson's by John Pepper, described it very clearly. And he talked about something that really hit home with me because I've talked about it before. So I found it like deja vu. By the way, John Pepper is not a doctor. He's just a guy. Dr. Pepper is a different guy. By the way, off the subject for 1 second, have you ever seen Dr. Pepper and Colonel Sanders in the same room? I don't think so. but that's only me. Anyway, so what John Pepper said is he talked about negative stress versus stress. So in the ICU, I see patients all the time. They're sick, they're dying, it's busy, it's pressurized, everyone is going bananas. But in the face of all this, I am very calm, I'm not stressed, I certainly don't feel my Parkinson's get any worse because of it. And I say, this is stress, but for some reason, it's not affecting me. On the other hand, as I said, if I go home and my wife yells at me because I did something wrong, always my fault, there's no question about it. Again, Parkinson's, down. So, stress, major importance, right? So, you have to practice things that reduce stress and try to avoid stressful situations. Now, unless you retire like John Pepper did and move to nirvana, you're going to have some stress, most of us. But you have to try to do anything to minimize this negative stress. And all sorts of things that I talked about to try to reduce your stress. Because anything you do is going to make you better. So now that I said there's hope, the question is, what is my plan going to be? And this is going to be forgetting the biology of my basal ganglia. I'm going to say it's not going to change. I'm going to say, and I suspect that I'm right, that we're not going to have a cure or anything close to it within my lifetime. On the other hand, I think that I am better and you can get better as well. So how have I done it? Why is my Parkinson's seemingly better on basically the same exact medications that I've been on for years? So I'm wondering whether or not anxiety is contributing to my vicious cycle. In other words, when I get to my interval where I'm expecting my L-DOPA to wear off, then I may feel something, I may get a little stressed, and I get into that cycle and I need my L-DOPA and then I feel better. But I'm wondering if I could completely get rid of that anticipatory stress. Can I prolong, reduce, eventually even come off my medications? I think it's possible. All right, my prescription. The first one is sleep. Sleep is a problem in Parkinson's. There's no question about it. Sleep is good for everyone. We know that. It's more important for PD. So I can go a day without a night where I'm sleepless, basically. The next day, I'm gone. The other caveat with sleep is that Parkinson's patients, by definition, seem to have a problem with sleep-wake cycle, circadian rhythm, our biologic clock, that relies and isn't trained by light day and night. So what do I do about that? So first of all, I have these light makers that I can, ambient light, that I can put on my desk at work, I could put on my desk at home, and I go outside as much as possible when I can, and I get regular light. And when it's nighttime, I make sure the lights are off, and I avoid, looking into the computer, looking at the phone, and hopefully that'll help me sleep. Hopefully that will help my day, and again, cycle. The other thing that I would say is that we're learning every day more and more that the gut biome, or the native bacteria of the gut, is different in Parkinson's and may help initiate the disease, perpetuate the disease, make it worse, and so forth and so on. Seems like there's some connection between the gut and Parkinson's. I do know that when my belly feels bad, I feel bad, and when my belly feels good, I feel good. I do know that when I take antibiotics and I get diarrhea and I'm not absorbing my pills right, I don't feel well. Number one, although there's not a tremendous amount of real data, good data, I take a probiotic, especially with antibiotics, but now I'm taking a probiotic every day, and I think that it makes me better, certainly in terms of my motor skills. Number two, take antibiotics when you need to. I'm not saying no, but when you don't need to, when you have a cold, don't take antibiotics. It's a virus, right? Tell your doctor what you're worried about so that he may put you on something more narrow as well. Just don't haphazardly take antibiotics. That's my point. On another video, I'm going to talk more about the gut and what we know about it, but again, not really ready for prime time. Number three, I'm basically repeating again, which is stress. Avoid stress if you can as much as possible, and whether it's it's yoga or Tai Chi or stretching or breath control or binaural music or tones, acupuncture, dancing, boxing, whatever, exercise, whatever it is, do whatever you can to reduce stress because, again, cycle, 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 plus stress, bad for everyone, much worse for Parkinson's. Number 4 is make your body strong. So that means a good diet and exercise. Good for everyone, both of them, better for Parkinson's disease. So first, in terms of diet, for people that are taking L-DOPA, like me, there is no question, it is known for sure, that protein that you take in when you eat interferes with the absorption of the dopa from your gut to your bloodstream and also interferes with movement of the L-DOPA from your bloodstream to your brain through the blood-brain barrier where eventually it could be made into dopamine. So some people, wait 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after. Some people 60 minutes before, 60 minutes after. Meds and protein. Sometimes when I eat a lot of protein in the past, my whole entire day is ruined, no matter what. So what I've adopted is not really novel, but it's moving my protein intake basically all the way till dinner. This idea of protein redistribution. So I do the best that I can to avoid any form of protein during the day because I feel better. The idea would be that I'm getting some at night, I go to sleep, and I'm not feeling it. The other thing that I do has a little bit less evidence, but still some evidence, which is I've switched my protein, even though I don't like vegetables, from animal protein to plant protein at night. The point being, the combination of protein redistribution and changing from animal to plant protein has been shown to have beneficial effects on Parkinson's performance. So now why does this happen? Is this because of medication? Is it because of the actual PD? Is it at the least just because you're eating more fiber and you get less constipated, which is a huge problem in PD? Again, I know that when I wake up with my belly bloated and I'm constipated, I'm going to have a bad day. I'm not sure if I'm up to number 4, but let's talk a little bit about exercise. The keys to exercise, first of all, aerobic and anaerobic exercise. High intensity, presumably better. But anything you could do to move is going to be better. Goals are going to be, first, you're going to strengthen your core. So why? Because your core is your center, right? It's your center of balance, it's your center of movement. The other thing is that people with PD tend to have more flexor tone, meaning that their heads are forward, shoulders are stooped, they're bent forward at their hips, and that's the typical Parkinsonian stance and goes with the gait. So what I like to do is work on my extensors, meaning keeping my head back, keeping my shoulders back, working out my back, working out my tush. Very, very important. I don't let myself slouch ever if possible. I don't have a pelvic tilt in either direction. I keep my weight when I'm standing squarely above the centers of my feet, both feet equally. I try not to have one shoulder higher than the other. Also, one goal is to increase flexibility. As we get older, flexibility is more important. So I want to give props to the gait guys for making me concentrate on my feet, especially the foot tripod. And it relies on intrinsic muscle strength of your foot. Very important. The foot tripod is stable. It helps your balance. It helps you to propel yourself forward. So last and maybe the most important is that I want to talk about neuroplasticity. This is what Dr. Deutsch has been preaching about for a long time. His first book I read when I first got diagnosed, which was The Brain That Changes Itself. Recently he wrote The Brain's Way of Healing. Also, John Pepper, Reversing Parkinson's, talks about the same thing in a non-medical way. So the concept is what we used to think about the brain, that it was static and fixed in your skull, is not true. We know that for sure. In other words, it is flexible, it is plastic, it is malleable, meaning that even as adults we can make new connections that are useful. So forget dopamine, forget my basal ganglia. If I could bypass it, use my cortex, thinking part of my brain, to start off an action that's normally involuntary, and then break it down, concentrating on every movement until I get the entire sequence down, and I'm constantly thinking about it, and I do it 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 times a day, over and over again. And by the way, you could do it, you can also think about it. So when I'm in bed, I think about the movements, especially on my left side. So what does it do? In your brain, genes get turned on, growth hormones get made, neurons do grow, develop more connections, connections get stronger, you get sequences of neurons, and now you get whole new movements that weren't there before, that used to be automatic. Now you may have to think about them, but much better than not being able to do them at all. So I can go right arm, left leg, and back. I can go left arm, right leg, and back. Over and over and over and over again. Then I'm also going to think about my steps. So I'm going to take a step, I'm going to land on my heel, most people do. My knee is going to bend to absorb some of the shock. I'm going to transition my weight over to my forefoot eventually as my other leg is crossing. And then I'm going to propel myself off my forefoot, off that foot tripod. There's a lot more to it, again, the gait guys. But if you spend time thinking about every little movement that comes in one big movement, you can be fluid. And although you have Parkinson's, you don't manifest Parkinson's. So when I wake up in the morning, what do? I make sure I'm okay, I guess. So I take my left hand and I do what I also like to work on symmetry, which I kind of already talked about. So this is the idea that because if my left arm is affected and my left leg is affected, I don't ignore and move everything to my right, which is what my doctor said from the very beginning. Use it or lose it. So I put my mouse on my left side. When I go to the gym, I don't bench press as much as I use dumbbells because, again, I'll cheat right when I want to be using left, which I can do with my dumbbells. I look in the mirror and make sure that I'm even, my shoulders are square. If I squat, I work more on my left. I also work on my feet. So I take my left hand and I do what my PD doctor tells me to do. So I close and open, big amplitudes, right? Big amplitudes, because PD patients tend to have small amplitudes, shorter steps, not swinging their arms as much, so forth and so on, as you know. So I do this. I do my finger touching back and forth. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Not as fast, but it gets better and better as I wake up. I then start to swing. Big arcs. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I can go faster. I can put in the other. I could be symmetric. I could be asymmetric. But I think that I'm fluid, and I'm not really thinking about it. I can go side to side, again, fluidly, side to side. I stretch from my neck. I stretch from my waist. I stretch from my hips. Be careful of my knees. I make sure that I do things for my feet every day. So the bottom line with exercise is exercise as much as you can. High intensity, probably better. Flexibility, core, extensor muscles, posture, symmetry, and amplitude. So by amplitude, again, I've talked about it. I bought these rings, which are called smoothie rings. They're weighted rings, that's all they are. And you know, you could swing them. It comes with a video, but you could figure it out. You swing them, you get bigger stretch, you get high amplitudes, you can go in any direction. You can also do crossovers, which make more sense because they're recapitulating movement. So that's the bottom line. So that's my prescription, and I think that's why I have hope, and I think you guys should have hope.